Now you can see my face. I started sharing my video. Originally I was not, so you probably weren't seeing me, you're just hearing me. Hi everybody. So right now I have John sharing his screen. I have my video up. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask them in the chat. We are not going to have attendees have their audio on just so we can get through as much content as possible. So please feel free to reach out. We have a lot of support staff in the chat also. We also have faculty members who have a lot of experience teaching online in the chat as well. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to anybody there. If you're looking at the chat window now, there is a little to button that has a drop-down menu. It says all panelists and attendees. You want to make sure that if you want to share your question with everyone, that you have all panelists and attendees set. If you just want to ask our panelists some questions, which right now looks like there's 13 people in there willing and ready to answer any questions you have, you can change that to all panelists. All right. So I am going to introduce Janan Acosta. She's going to go ahead and get us started in web courses and give you a quick overview of that. And I'll stop my webcam so that she can share hers and she can share her screen. So everybody buckle in. We'll cover everything we can as best we can today. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me, and if you can't, please just let me know in the chat. So as Ariana mentioned, I'm Janan Acosta. I am the supervisor of the wonderful web courses at UCF support team here at UCF. What we're going to do here today is, as John was showing on the agenda, what we're going to go through first is how to access web courses at UCF. After that, we're just going to go through some of the basic features that you'll want to use. Let me see here. So just to start off, the audience for this workshop is faculty that are usually teaching face-to-face classes who need to quickly get prepared to deliver their courses online. For the next few weeks, in these extraordinary circumstances, it is not intended to replace our the Center for Distributed Learning's usual professional development offerings. So this does not replace any professional development requirements to get credentialed to teach online here at UCF. And with the understanding that faculty are already required to put their syllabus and grades in web courses at UCF, you may already be familiar with some of the basics, but what we're going to do is start with the assumption that you are not using web courses at UCF on a regular basis. So the easiest way to access web courses at UCF is to go to webcourses.ucf.edu. I'm already logged in. Let me log out so I can show you the process. So you'll go to webcourses.ucf.edu. You'll log in with your NID and NID password. Once there, you'll see your dashboard, and your dashboard will show either all of your courses if you've never favorited any courses, or it'll show your favorite courses. If you don't see your course here that you're expecting to see, click on courses and then click on all courses. You'll see any course that you have been enrolled in here. And if you wanted to add it to your dashboard, click on the star and it'll show up. But not this one. So my course is on my dashboard. So let's go ahead and access the course. Let me see here. Okay, so one of the first things that you want to do when you access your course for the first time is check and see whether or not your course is published. And you can see that under course status on the right-hand side here. We recommend that you go ahead and publish it right away. You can wait until you have some content added there, but even if you don't, just go ahead and publish the course right away, because your students are going to be checking web courses, and they're going to expect to see the course there. So we do recommend putting it there right away, just so that they don't get nervous, don't wonder where their course is, things like that. As soon as you click publish, you're going to be asked to choose your course homepage. The course homepage will be the screen that your students are taken to as soon as they click on your course from their dashboard. So we recommend using the course activity stream. The course activity stream will show your students all of the most recent activity that has been done in the course. I haven't created any content in the course yet, so there's nothing there. But as we go through this workshop, you'll see that that some items will pop up there, and that's exactly what we want. So the most important thing that you're going to want to do first is to communicate with your students. As soon as you log into Web Courses at UCF, you might find that your students have already messaged you, and you might find some messages here in your inbox. You can tell that I have 12 new messages because of that number there. So you can click on your inbox and see, see if any students have messaged you. You can also use this to message all of your students. What'll happen is they'll see it in their inbox in Web Courses at UCF, and if they have notifications set up, they may also be notified by email or on their phone in the app and things like that. Let's go back to our dashboard and go back to our course. What we highly recommend doing is sending your students an announcement. An announcement will be posted to this course, and it will also notify your students based upon what their notification settings are. So go ahead and click Add Announcement to create your new announcement. So you just fill in your subject line. Here you can tell students, whether or not you're going to be using Zoom, if you're going to be emailing them, if you're going to be communicating with them in Web Courses at UCF. Just set out your expectations there, so that your students know what to expect and know where to look for information. One cool thing that you can do is, if you do have files and things like that in your file section, which we'll talk about in a minute, you can click on files. I don't think I have any right now, but you can click on a file and it'll link it right here in the announcement text. So that's a great way to share maybe your syllabus or an updated course schedule, something like that. And then the students will just click on the link and go straight to the file. So let's go ahead and save the announcement so I can show you how it pops up. So it's going to show up under announcements, but most importantly, when students access the course, what's going to happen is your announcement will show up here. My announcement did not show up. I don't know why. There it is. I just had to wait a second. So as soon as your students access this course, they'll notice that you've just recently posted an announcement. This is the most recent activity in the course. They can just click on it. This is a really great feature. The next thing that you're going to want to do is, let's go ahead and talk about files. So you probably already have things like PowerPoint presentations or assignments or things like that you want to share with your students, documents that you already have. You could maybe scan some PDFs for them or something like that. Just click on upload. You'll be given an option to upload your file. If you want this file section to be visible to your students, what you'll do is go to the navigation settings, which we will do shortly. I will be showing you that when we enable Zoom. You can also create assignments for your students. So if you had an assignment that normally would have been submitted on paper, what you can do is create a little assignment. It's sort of like an assignment Dropbox here in Web Courses at UCF. You'll create an assignment, and then it'll show up as a column in the gradebook. You'll assign a point value. So let's call this assignment 1. you would write some instructions in here, set a point value. And then the most important thing here is to set the submission type. So the submission type here is online. The other options are no submission. This is in case, you know, they did something in class or something like that and you want to give them a grade. Online is what we're looking for. So you want to click online. The entry options are going to be listed here. Most commonly, you probably will be using text entry where they can just draft their answer, their response there and submit it, or they can upload files. If you wanted to restrict the type of file that they can upload by file type, for example, if it needs to be a Word document or something like that, then you would just put doc and docx here, and they would only be allowed to submit those file types, which is a nice feature too. You can enable Turnitin here. And then what you can also do is set the due date, the availability date. So the availability date is the date that the assignment will become available to students. The due date is when it is due by, and this will be added to their calendar. And the until date is a date that allows them to continue to submit after the due date, but it will be marked as late. So once you're ready, go ahead and click Save and Publish. So you'll see your assignment pop up here. If you go to your home screen, we should also see that assignments will pop up here. It hasn't yet. I'm sure everybody is using web courses at UCF right now. But you'll notice that the assignment that I just created has popped up in the gradebook. In order to access the speed grader, which is a really great feature for helping you to do grading quickly and efficiently, click on one of these cells here next to one of the students' names and click this box and click Speed Grader. What this will do is once students have submitted to this assignment, it'll show their submission right here, and you can enter their grade right here, click Submit, you can leave some comments, and it's as simple as that. And to go to the next person, just click the right arrow. So that's how you would create an assignment. Another thing that you might want to do is to create discussions where your students can go either submit a graded discussion or so they can just talk amongst themselves. So you can create something like class chat. So this could just be a casual place where students come and discuss, you know, how they're doing. You know, they're not going to have that face-to-face interaction anymore, but discussions can help fill that void a little bit. Or it could be a graded discussion that you require them to do for a grade. If you want it to be a graded discussion, you would just click this graded option here, and then you'll be asked to enter a point value. There are some other options here, and then there's also the due, available, and until dates. And then click Save and Publish. And now students will also see that there is a graded discussion for them to do. Let me go ahead and go to Student View and show you what this looks like from the student's perspective. This is a feature that you can use, by the way. Click on Settings and go to Student View, and then you'll see a student view of your course. You'll notice that they have a to-do list right here. So if there are announcements or assignments that they need to do, it'll show up there. I think that my items are not showing up yet because my assignment doesn't have an availability from date. I think that's the reason. I'm actually not sure. So if they go to assignments, they'll see all of the items in the course that are for a grade. So let's go ahead and look at how you can enable Zoom in your course. So click on Settings. Actually, before we talk about Zoom, I wanted to quickly mention conferences. Conferences is already is already integrated into web courses at UCF. There are some features that differ between conferences and Zoom, so it sort of just depends on your needs. We're recommending Zoom because it it allows more participants per session and a couple of other small differences like that. But conferences are pretty feature rich as well. If you're already using conferences, you can certainly continue to use conferences. I think students are expecting Zoom sessions, but that is of course up to you. So let's go ahead and enable Zoom. You'll click on settings, and then you'll probably start here on the first tab, but you want to click on navigation. And then once you're here, scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's probably at the bottom of the list because it was just recently added to web courses at UCF. Click on this menu and click enable. It'll pop up to the top. These are the items that are enabled. I recommend even dragging it up higher if you're going to be using Zoom, so that way students can just see it there right away. Make sure you scroll all the way down and click save to save your changes. And now you'll notice that there is a Zoom link right here. And that's exactly what students will see as soon as they access your course. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ariana because she will be doing the Zoom portion of our session today.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so I am actually going to switch Janine's screen to my screen. I'll cover this a little bit in more detail. I know a lot of people have some questions about how to navigate Zoom. So let me go ahead and just start sharing my screen. Let me start my video. Let's see, get myself all situated. A lot of people are going to be doing this week, getting situated.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Select my desktop. All right. So let me just do a check real quick, make sure everybody is seeing this okay. Is everybody seeing my screen okay? Can you see it, Janine?
I see it and it looks good.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So first, I'm going to start in web courses since Janine just left you off in web courses. If I have my Zoom is a little further down, so I have to find it, but Zoom's right here. I currently don't have any meetings scheduled in my course. When I'm ready to get started to schedule a meeting, and the reason I would do it within web courses is when I schedule a meeting in web courses, it's going to send a invite to all of my students through web courses. So if I have them enrolled in my class, they're going to get an invite to join a meeting. So if you're kind of playing around and testing things, anytime you schedule a meeting, they're going to get an alert for that. So let me go ahead and run you through scheduling a new meeting. So if I hit schedule a new meeting, it automatically populates my course name and the topic. I can change that if I want, but it does kind of make it easier if you leave it as the course title, as that's what students are usually looking for. But I could also say, Ariana's course. I can say anything I need to in there that I definitely want my students to see. So I'll leave it as Ariana's course. I can add a description. That's optional. I can also come down and set the date and time. So if I wanted to set it for Friday, 1 p.m., I can do that. I can set the duration. You don't have to worry about duration too much. I haven't heard of anybody getting kicked out because they didn't set it long enough. And if you set it for 2 hours and you end early, that's okay. You can end the meeting early also. I want to just double check that the time zone's all good. I can use this reoccurring meeting option if I need to. Um, uh, I'm not going to in this case because I'm just going to have one meeting on Friday. I don't want to require registration. I do want my video to be on. I don't want my students' video to be on, which they would be the participants. I do want to allow them to join by phone and computer audio. A lot of students are displaced right now, and they might not have access to a computer, so the ability for them to just call into the meeting is going to be really beneficial for some. So we also have this option here, which is require meeting password. If you leave this as is, the invite will automatically have the password, so you don't have to worry about sending that to your students after the fact, or you can toggle it off. You also have, and I can just do test. When you do turn it off and on, it removes that automatically generated one. You have enable join before host. This is if you want your students to be able to get into the room before you do. So if this is checked, they're going to be able to join your meeting before you get to your meeting. So when you hit save and they get that notification about joining, they're going to be able to join before you get there. So you can decide if you want that on or off. I actually like the idea of leaving it on so that they can get there in case I haven't been in there yet, and kind of get familiar with the tool. So a lot of students are probably going to be playing around with things just like we are this week. So we also have mute participants upon entry. I would definitely leave that checked. So students don't come in with their microphones already on and speaking, or if they have things going on in the background. I had a Zoom meeting earlier with my dogs barking a lot, so luckily they're not here right now. So we also have this option to use personal meeting ID. I don't recommend checking this, as your personal meeting ID has probably already been used for other meetings or shared for other meetings. So in this case, if you're scheduling a course or a Zoom session for your particular course, you want a unique meeting ID. So you wouldn't want to use your personal meeting ID. We can enable the waiting room. If I leave this checked, that means that I'm going to have to manually allow students to come into the room. I'm going to have to admit them into my space. So if I don't want to have to do that for each student, then I would uncheck this. I can select to record the meeting automatically. If I'm going to do that, anytime somebody's in that space, it's in that meeting, it's going to be recorded automatically, and you'll receive an alert when the recording is ready. In this case, I'm going to leave that unchecked, but I can show you how to record later if you do decide to do that in the middle of your class. So when I'm done, I can hit save. And then afterwards, I can actually change any of these settings. So if I scheduled this meeting for Friday and I decided, you know what, I am going to use the waiting room. I had a couple classes already, and it was just overwhelming having them all join without me giving permission to them join. I can come back and I can change that for anything that I've already scheduled. One second, check. And all right, so I could also delete it after I've scheduled this. Or I can go ahead and start the meeting. Before I open a Zoom call, I just want to show you again what it looks like after you've scheduled a meeting. So in web courses, so if I go down to Zoom, and it brings me back to my main Zoom page, you now see I have this meeting scheduled as an upcoming meeting. Also, while I'm in here, I want to show you what recordings look like after they're finished. This is a recording that I actually did in my course, and it will show up here. I can review it if I want by clicking this link. Or if I think it's good and I want my students to be able to see it, I can select publish. Anything that you do outside of Zoom in your course, anything that you didn't schedule in Zoom in your web course, isn't going to show up in this list. So I'm only seeing things that I recorded in my scheduled web course session. So when I'm ready to actually share it, I can hit publish, and then the students will be able to see it when they navigate to the Zoom link in your web course. So now I'm going to actually jump into the Zoom portion of this. So when I go to an upcoming meeting and I hit start, it's going to bring me to similar to what you saw when you joined our Zoom meeting for this webinar. You had to join with like your computer audio and select some things before you got in the meeting. The students are going to have to do the same thing. And if they have the desktop client, which is what I'm going to show you, there's a few more features. If you guys have that, there's a few more features than using it in the browser. I'm using this. I'm sharing this meeting in the browser for just so that I can actually demonstrate the other version of Zoom. So I'm going to go and switch over to that. I have it open back here. So this is what Zoom on your desktop will look like, the actual desktop client. I have a meeting running already. I've already joined. I actually have a student in here already. Marie's in here. So hi, Marie. I am not currently sharing my microphone. I'm sharing it with you guys in this meeting. But if I wanted to, I could unmute myself. I have the option to change any of my audio settings. So if I had an external microphone that I wanted to use, I could come in here and select it. I have a couple of them hooked up, but I'm actually using my internal mic right now. We found that, this is something I found out earlier. I was using a wireless microphone and it was giving me quite a bit of problems. So I actually switched to the internal microphone on my computer, and it seems to be working a lot better. So if you are experiencing the same thing, don't be afraid to just switch to your internal microphone. I can also select my speaker, which is my audio output where I'm hearing my audio. So right now I still have it going to my headset. So that's why I still have my headset on. So I can also do a test, which you guys might have done before you came into this particular meeting. So I'll go ahead and close that. That's most of the audio settings. We have the video settings, which I will show you here. I don't know if it's going to be really weird, so just bear with me as I do this. So I'll go ahead and start that. You're probably seeing two of me right now, but yeah, if I wanted to share my video in the meeting, I could do that here. There are some fun things we've discovered. You can put yourself in a virtual background or add a virtual background and things like that. I think in here I added the FMC. And I got to that just by clicking this caret and choose virtual background. And you can upload any kind of background or anything you want. If for some reason you're in kind of a strange space right now at home and you don't want your students to be able to see what's going on behind you. So I'll turn that off and close this one down. When I'm ready to stop sharing my video, I can just hit stop. And then again, it'll just show my name. Unless you've probably seen some people start to have the pictures show up. So, sorry, let me check this. So you've probably seen people have profile pictures. I have not uploaded a profile picture, but I kind of want to show you if you do want to do that. I can show you how to do that. So if you well, actually, I'll show you guys that later. But that if you did have one, it would show up here instead of your name. So let's see. If I wanted to invite other people other than my students, but if I scheduled this in web courses, I probably don't want to. I probably just want my students in there. I could do so by copying the URL here and sending that to them. I clicked this invite button. I have manage participants, which if I click this, it's going to show me who is in my class. You saw that pop up in the top right corner. And right now I just have Marie in here with me. Her audio is muted and her webcam is off, as I can see here by these icons. If I wanted to, I could unmute Marie, or I can change a few. I can make additional changes to her role in the class, which is something that we've been doing in these webinars, you've probably seen us switching roles. Janann was sharing her screen, and then I got to share my screen. So if I wanted to be able to do that, I could actually allow Marie to be a host or co-host, and then she'd be able to share her screen. But right now, she doesn't have that option. So I also have in the managed participants, I have the students have the ability to raise their hand and do different things. They can respond to questions. When they raise their hand, you get an icon next to their name, letting them know that they have a question or something like that. Next to manage participants, I have share screen. This is where when I'm ready to share what I'm doing on my desktop computer, I can do that, whether that's a PowerPoint or anything else. So let me go ahead and show you what that would look like. If I hit share screen, right now I'm currently sharing my desktop. If I share my desktop again in another thing, it might get a little wonky. So I'm going to show you the whiteboard option. I think some people have had trouble sharing their desktop in this, and they're getting something where it looks like it's an infinity kind of mirroring thing happening. If that's happening, that means that you're trying to share your desktop, and then you also have the window open where you're like the Zoom window open where you're seeing that desktop also. So that's something that can happen when you're trying to share, but then also view what you share. So just be aware of that. And the reason why Zoom does things where when you select desktop, it automatically closes it is to try to prevent that from happening. So when I share my screen, it usually will close my Zoom window, so I don't have to worry about that. And then I can do and present whatever I need to present and then come back later. In this video, or in this webinar, I'm actually going to show you the whiteboard. So I'm going to select whiteboard and come down to share. And now you can see I have this nice big space to work with. I can draw on this. I can actually add text. So if I come up here to this toolbar and hit add text. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do in this space, especially if you're used to teaching face-to-face and you're used to using the whiteboard a lot. This might be really useful. If you have a Surface, you could actually just write directly on your computer screen or anything like that, like a tablet that allows you to write. There's also the ability to share like an iPad or something else. So you can share your iPad and then write on your iPad in a similar fashion to the whiteboard. So when I'm finished sharing, I can come up here to stop share. It's at the top usually, and it's a big red button. I hit stop share. And then I'm brought back to my Zoom meeting. So as you can see, I'm back here with Marie. Next to screen share, I have chat, which I already have opened. And I have it over here on the right. And I can see if my students are trying to reach me through chat. I can also respond to my students. So as you can see, Marie was letting me know, she's like, I think you're muted. She can't hear me. Yes, Marie, I am muted. I'm sorry. So, if I needed to respond to them or share any kind of files or anything like that, I could do so in the chat window. But I do want to remind you, if you're uploading files to your web courses, your students have access to those through web courses too. So there's a variety of different ways you can be sharing files with your students right now. We also have the closed caption feature, which just reminds me that I want to mention that if anybody has received a letter earlier in the semester from Student Accessibility Services about a student in their class who has any kind of extra needs that need met in their class, especially deaf or hard of hearing, there is the ability to have somebody like live caption it if you have one of those letters. So if you received one of those letters from Student Accessibility Services, please reach out and get with somebody before you start hosting Zoom sessions. We just want to make sure that everybody is able to access the content that you're sharing to them virtually. All right, so I also have breakout rooms. We showed that a little bit yesterday. I'll go ahead and show that again today. It's a pretty cool feature. If I select breakout rooms, I can actually assign students into different virtual spaces where they can work together, and then I can call them back into my main Zoom meeting. So if you usually do group work in your class, this might be really useful for that. I can assign it automatically, or I can assign them manually. I'm going to go ahead and do manual. So if I do create breakout room, I only have one person, but I can assign them to breakout room 1, or I can add additional rooms. So if I wanted to, I can assign Marie to this main room. And then when I hit open all rooms, she's actually going to be moved out of this space. Hopefully we get her back, but we'll see. So I'm going to open all rooms, and then she'll actually be able to join that room. She'll get a little notice that she's been invited. She joined it. So she's not in my main Zoom meeting anymore. When I'm ready to call my students back, I have this option to broadcast a message to them and say, hello, I'm going to close the room, and I'll broadcast that message. So now they know that I'm about to close the rooms. When I'm ready, I close the rooms. They get 60 seconds before they have to finish up what they're doing and come back, or they can leave right away. So she just came back right away. They were already finished. They didn't need that extra 60 seconds. So I'm going to close that. I think that is about it for the basics of Zoom in here. I do have this other button here to end the meeting. If I select this, oh, I forgot to cover recording. I'm so sorry. So if you are planning on, so if you remember when I scheduled this in web courses, I didn't select record automatically. So if for some reason I decided that exciting things were happening and I really wanted to record it, I could come down here and select record. On the desktop client, it gives me the option to record on the computer, and it gives me the option to record on the cloud. If you're in the browser Zoom, then you're not going to have the option to record on the computer. Recording to the cloud is nice because it saves it automatically to your Zoom account. If we have been hearing that it does take a really long time to get the recording processed and then be able to share it. So it does give you a little notice, and I'll go ahead and click record. It's connecting. It takes a little bit of time. Then I'll see that I'm actually recording up here in the top left. If I had hit automatically recording, I would have been seeing that already. So then when I'm ready to stop recording, I hit stop recording. This is that notice that if you do a cloud recording, it's going to let you know that it's going to send you an email when it's ready. So I know a lot of people have done cloud recordings and they're like, okay, well, where's my email? So it's taking some time. Everybody probably in the world right now is using Zoom for not just higher education. They're using it for meetings and different things. A lot of people are working from home. So just be patient and you'll eventually get that recording link in your email. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. If you don't want to deal with waiting for the cloud to process it, you can record straight to your computer and then upload it to either web courses or somewhere else. So and then I also want to just say that if this is kind of a tricky transition for some people. Zoom isn't the end-all solution. If you want the interaction and you want to meet with your students, then Zoom is good for that. If you are just trying to send them files or send them quizzes or send them information, then use web courses. If you're already teaching an online class, you don't need to try to implement Zoom in your online class. Just continue doing what you're already doing. But Zoom is really good for setting up meetings with students, holding office hours, or doing actual live lectures. It's also an easy tool for you to record yourself or your screen or your whiteboard or anything like that and share that later. If you're going to do that, you don't have to do it through web courses. You don't have to schedule the meeting through web courses. All right. So when I'm finished with my Zoom meeting, I can come down here to end meeting. And I get this little notice that if I want to leave the meeting, I can do that. If I leave this meeting, that means that the meeting is still going to continue and people can hang around and do whatever they need to do. But if I end the meeting for all, that means everybody's going to get kicked out. So in this case, I'm done with the meeting. Have a great day, Marie. We'll see you later. And I'm going to end the meeting for her. All right. And I'm going to come back over here. And I'm just going to check the chat, make sure that there's nothing that I missed that we might have wanted to cover. So let me pull up that. Let's see. Is there anything that I missed? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen for a second, but you should still hear me. So let me stop. And I'm actually really embarrassed. I thought I was sharing my video with you guys the whole time, and I was not. So at some point, I lost you in my video. So let me switch back over. Kitty. So hopefully you guys could see me again. I don't know if maybe that happened when I was in the other Zoom client, but I'm not sure if there's anything that I did not cover.
I did see
Yeah.
a question in the chat, and unfortunately, it looks like the person who asked has already left the meeting, but I'm going to go ahead and cover conferences really quickly.
Okay.
So let me show my screen again.
I'm going to stop my video, Janine.
Okay. Okay, so now you should be seeing my web courses at UCF course, and I'm on the conferences page. So if you wanted to create a conference, what you would do is click on the add conference button, and we'll go through the settings here real quick. So you can give it a name, or it's just going to be called your course name with conference at the end. Big blue button is what we use. The duration here by default will be 60 minutes, but you can change this. It does end after that time, so make sure that you make it long enough. If you want to do any recording of your conference, make sure that you click enable recording for this conference. This is very important because if you don't enable the recording, you won't have the record button once you are in the conference. So make sure that you do that. Another thing with regard to recording your conferences is that only students who are invited will be able to come to the conferences page and watch the recording. So if you want it to be available to everyone, make sure that you invite all course members. That's this checkbox down here. And then you can go ahead and click update. Your conference will show up here, and then your conference will not begin until you click start. Once you click start, it's going to ask you, if you want to use your mic or if you just want to use your headphones to listen. And then once you're here, it's fairly straightforward. And we do have documentation on Big Blue Button that web courses at UCF support will certainly help you with. But you'll be here. So this is the conferences interface. You can do things like share your screen, share your webcam, or just join audio. Your participants would show up here. They can chat, and you can chat with them here. You can do a few other things as well. It's pretty feature rich. This is where you can start your recording. So you can start recording by clicking on this button. Yes. It's warning me that I don't have a mic or anything like that because I'm using my mic for this Zoom meeting right now. But yeah, that's about it. It's fairly straightforward. Just make sure that if you want your students to see your recording, that they need to be invited, and then you need to enable recording when you create your conference. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If anyone has any questions, please let me know in the chat.
So I think it might just be, my video keeps cutting in and out. I'm not sure if that's just for everybody
I can't
or just
see
for
you.
me.
I can't see you, Ariana.
So these things happen.
Yes.
So
all the time.
I am trying to share my video right now. Sorry if you're not seeing it.
I do see you now. You just popped up.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna try to keep up with some of the chat and some of our other channels and see if there's any questions that did not get answered. I'm gonna reach out and just say if the panelists know of anything that did not get answered that possibly Janan and I can help with, could you go ahead and send us a
Yes. Would
message and let us
conferences
know?
work for office hours? Conferences can work for office hours, and you can, and then you would have to deselect the let me show my screen again.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah. So what you would do when you create your conference is do not invite all course members, and then you can just click the one student. They will be the only people that are invited, and then they'll, even if you record it, they're the only ones that'll be able to watch the recording. So that is a good option. And if you wanted to do office hours using Zoom, that's also an option. What you would do is go to,
Do you want me to show that real quick? I forgot I
yeah,
was gonna show the. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
please do.
I
Thank you.
will. All right. So I am gonna share my screen now. There we go. It's that big green button at the bottom. When you're in your meeting, you'll see it. So I'm sharing mine. If, as Janan said, if I wanted to schedule something outside of web courses and have students come join me in a Zoom meeting that I did not schedule on my web courses, or I don't want to invite everyone, or maybe I want to meet with my faculty, or we've been using it to meet with just some of our fellow staff members. So I can navigate to ucf.zoom.us. It's going to bring me to this landing page where I have the option to join a meeting that's already in progress. I can host a meeting, or I can sign in. If I click host a meeting, it's going to automatically bring me to open, like launch Zoom and allow me to open a Zoom meeting. That's going to be, your personal ID room where you can kind of play around and stuff, where you saw earlier that I was in and I was messing around with. So I'm not going to do that because I don't want to kick myself out of this call. So I'll hit cancel. If I go back to that main page, so ucf.zoom.us, I also have this option to sign in. And here is where I can schedule other meetings that are separate from my course. So I can schedule a meeting similar to how I did in my course, same kind of idea as settings, it's still the same thing, except this isn't going to automatically invite my students. I can set this up, I can hit save, and then I have this URL that I can share with people who I want to come to my meeting. So I've been using this to just meet with some faculty. I've been setting up Zoom meetings, scheduling them, sending them this link, allowing them to join, and then we can all kind of like play around with the tool together. So that's a way that you can set up a meeting outside of web courses and use it for office hours or anything else like that. Your personal meeting ID can also be used for that. That's something that is always available. It's like that's that room that at the beginning when I hit host, it's going to bring me there. So I have that here. I can share that and join that meeting whenever I need to. I also have, and I wanted to show everybody this. I was mentioning it at the beginning, and I didn't cover it yet. So if you want to add a profile picture in Zoom, you would go to ucf.zoom.us and sign in, come to your profile over here on the left, and you can hit change under this little picture. Right now, I don't have anything, so I can actually hit change, and I could upload a picture that I would want everybody to see. I think I have one right on my desktop. So now, similar to how when we change our profile picture like anywhere else in Facebook or anything like that, we can actually do that here. Hit save, and then now I'll have a profile picture. So now, similar to how you see John and you see Janan's picture in this webinar popping up, hopefully in the next webinar I do, I'll see my picture. I don't think it's going to happen instantly. I don't think you guys are going to see it, but all right. So let me stop sharing my screen. Let me start sharing my video again. Do we have any other questions that I maybe didn't grab? And I just want, I'm experiencing a problem right now that somebody else might experience, so I'm just gonna tell you how I'm getting over it. Every time I go to start my video, I'm frozen. And then I'm having to actually go down to the caret next to start and stop video and reselect my camera, and that's fixing my problem. So if you experience that similar problem, you can do that. So any other questions? I'm gonna just make sure I'm not missing anything. If somebody wants to kind of, who's a panelist, poke me directly, like send me a message directly or anything like that, so I can cover it, let me know. Think everybody, I guess it sounds like everybody's gotten everything answered, which is actually really nice. Thank you so much to everybody who's been jumping in and answering those questions really quickly. So I'm not gonna cover the YouTube and Zoom integration in here. We're gonna do some other one-off workshops for things like that. The reason we're not going to show that here is that might just get a little too complicated, and that would just really be for particularly really large classes. So if your class is over 300 students and you want to use Zoom to broadcast your lecture, reach out to Web Courses Support and they'll get you in touch with somebody who can show you how to do that. So the workshop from yesterday should be available on the Keep Teaching site sometime today. We're recording all of these workshops. So this workshop will also be available depending on Zoom servers when we can get it. So that should be available also. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to reach out to, definitely, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to Web Courses Support. There's a lot of staff there that's ready to answer any questions, and we have them sending them to places all over campus. So even if you have questions that aren't necessarily for Web Courses, we have a lot of people who are ready to answer any kind of media questions, and we've been pulling in a lot of help from around campus. So please just, don't hesitate if you're struggling. We'll help you get there. Everybody's kind of having a rough time and with this transition, and I know that even I am getting set up at home has been tricky. So I know everybody misses being on campus, but if you need anything else, just let us know. All right. I'm going to actually pass this over to John in case he has anything else that he needs to say, but if not, we might just end this webinar early.
Awesome work, Janan. Ari, thank you so much for all the information. We have close to 15 moderators here from across different departments, FCTL, OIR, CDL, kind of helping out, answer any questions. I also want to kind of plug, we're going to be doing 2 more sessions this week. So this is a great time to get some more one-on-one questions with us where we could address them in the chat, maybe do a quick demo if there's enough people asking. Ari did mention we are going to do some live training webinars for Zoom as well. And I am working on getting the videos up on our Keep Teaching site along with copies of the transcripts. So I'm hoping to get that done by the end of the day. So if you just check back there, you can see the recording as well as any of the transcripts. And that's kind of all I had for closing. Janan, Ari, anything else you want to add before we end this?
I don't think so. Oh, people are asking when the live. So we're going to be I think John just mentioned this,
No,
but
no, yeah.
everything's going to come through Keep Teaching. We also are very lucky to have John on our team because he does all of our communications. So he's going to be sending out emails to all the faculty about when we add additional workshops and things like that. So just keep an eye out. I know everybody is eager to get their hands on some of this software and stuff. So keep an eye out for that kind of information. We're still slowly getting that set up.
Yeah, I see a question in the chat about where the live trainings will be. Yes, they will be listed on the Keep Teaching website.
Yep.
So please keep checking back there.
Yep, everything will be placed on Keep Teaching, and once we kind of nail down the logistics of how we want to facilitate and manage the Zoom live workshops, we'll put the information on the Keep Teaching website, and we will follow up. I'll follow up with sending emails out to all faculty across the university. So we'll get the information out to you one way or another. But the biggest takeaway here is like keep checking that Keep Teaching site. We update it every day.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And thank you for doing that every day. Thank you for updating that every day. All right, I think that might be it. I think, all right, I hope everybody has a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.